Good afternoon, everyone. Today's talk is with our good friend Joey Beltran, who is the current World Heavyweight Bare-knuckle Champion, as well as the Police Gazette World Heavyweight Champion. He is a veteran of UFC, Bellator, just an incredible individual. And so we are looking forward to talking to him about everything bare-knuckle and his background. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you. So, Joey, it's great to have you on the talk today. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just cruising, just heading over to my training session. Just business as usual.
How has COVID kind of affected your training and mindset with everything going on?
Honestly, like the first couple weeks, I was like real cautious and kind of like, for lack of better terms, kind of spooked. And then after a while, I was like, I don't know. And I was like, just business as usual. I just kind of had to fly under the radar as far as like training at gyms and stuff, because there's always gyms that are open. You just kind of walk in the side door, to train with the lights off, stuff like that.
It was kind of weird at the beginning of March with a lot of these gyms are being forced to close and they're small businesses. It was kind of weird seeing people kind of rat on people for working out or trying to stay healthy. It's just a weird couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's silly. I have a couple of gyms that pop in my mind over in Oceanside. It's like literally down the street from me. Metroflex was just like a traditional, like old school Gold's Gym type place, like just weightlifting and 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu. They got people calling the cops on them that aren't even at the gym. Like a lady that lives in a condo across the street from the gym is calling the cops on them because, like, you're not even going to the gym. Like, what do you care?
Right.
But it's just, this thing has just affected so many people in so many different ways. Some people are just flat out spooked.
Right. It's cool. It's cool to kind of see with like UFC, the Fight Island. It's kind of cool to see at least you guys out there kind of still competing, everyone who doesn't love sports. So it's kind of cool to see you guys still out there and kind of doing that stuff.
Absolutely, man.
So how did you get started into the whole kind of fighting lifestyle like that?
Well, I mean, I started off, originally I boxed when I was about 10 years old. All the older kids in my apartment complex, like my friends' older brothers and stuff, were going and training boxing at this place. It was called the Join Hands Save a Life Community Center. It was basically like a guy is just training kids in the bar, just training for free, giving us an alternative other than running the streets. And so I begged and begged for like a year straight, and finally my mom let me go, and I turned 10. And so then I did that for a while, and right off, I was 10 years old, and I was big. So I mean, I was 10 years old, and I had to spar like 15 and 16-year-olds. And then once I was like a teenager, I was sparring like grown-ups. So I was used to like, boom, like taking big shots and like having to deal with that sort of power. So I did that for a while, and then once I got to high school, I played traditional sports like wrestling and football. And I was not so good at football, but I had fun. All my friends played, and then wrestling was my thing. Like the one-on-one combat sports was always my thing.
You had the Greco-Roman background, right, for that?
Yeah, I did that all through high school. So I did that for about 4 years.
When were you doing the street fights? Is that when you're older, or?
Oh, when was I fighting in the streets?
Yeah.
When I was younger. When I was young, I got kicked out of junior high. I was just running amok. I gave my poor mom a lot of headaches.
Right.
I was, raised by a single mother, and just angry and mad all the time, and obvious reasons, and so I was just running. And also too, like, it's kind of weird the way it worked out. Like being a professional fighter, like You know, sometimes people think like, oh, if you're a big guy, like, oh, people don't mess with you. Like, no, it was opposite in my neighborhood. Like, I was the biggest guy, and people always wanted to like get off on my face, like just to like prove how tough they were.
Right.
So, you know, so I lost. I got my ass whipped a couple times, but I definitely won more than I lost in the streets. And so, you know, and then once I went to, so I got kicked out of junior high, and I went to high school. And I calmed down because I was like, I don't want to get kicked out of school again. And then, yeah, you know, once I got out of high school and started going to parties and going to bars and stuff like that, yeah, I picked up. So I was like, I'm pretty good at this stuff. Maybe I should do it for money.
Who were you watching growing up? Like, who were some of the fighters of like UFC or Bellator and stuff?
Oh man, I mean, honestly, like, I remember watching the first UFC, like, and it was at my brother-in-law's. Well, he was just my sister's boyfriend back then, but now he's my brother-in-law. Is at my brother-in-law's house, and we were watching like on a little dinky TV in the back, but they got the pay-per-view, and I just remember watching it the first time and thinking like, wow, like, why are these fights so fast? Like, why are they so fast? It's so weird how this fucking little guy's just choking everybody so fast.
Right.
And, you know, and so it was like, I remember being so bummed when the big sumo guy got hit. I always cheered for the big guys. I wanted the big guys to win.
Yeah, that fight, I think I watch that fight every week because it's so insane how that guy kind of open palms him to bring him down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, I've literally been watching since day one. When I got older, I remember I had a VHS. I had Tito versus Guy Mesger. I used to watch a lot. Of course, like just Tito coming out with the Mexican flag. Like I just identified right away. I gravitated. Oh, I want that guy to win.
Right.
And like I liked his attitude, how he like talked shit and he wanted to flip off like the lion's den. And I liked that stuff. And like I said, the early Guy Mesger fights, Tito versus Evan Tanner. I had that VHS, and I would just watch those VHSs over and over and over again. Watch all the fights, and so early on, yeah, Tito. I was a big fan of Tito.
Was it difficult to kind of transition your anger and what your emotions were into the fight? Because there is a lot of control, and you do have to have some sort of, like, you just can't go in there guns blazing. You have to be prepared. So was it tough for you to kind of put that together?
I mean, in many ways, like early on in my, like when I started like fighting and actually competing, like I would go in there with like I would work on all these skills and all these like refining my techniques throughout the whole training camp, and then like I would get so fucking scared in the back and like freak myself out like in the back, like oh my god, and then once I would get out there, like I would freeze like under the lights, like oh shit, until I started getting hit, boom, and I got hit hard a couple times, and I'm like fuck this, and I would react and just start scrapping like I was in the streets, and so. You know, like, and that's what I became known for, especially like in the UFC, like just these crazy brawls, and I got like notoriety with the fans, respect by my peers and stuff. But in my head, after I'm like, I fucked up. Like I didn't do anything I worked on.
Right.
And you know, so in a way, like my anger and stuff like that would serve me early on. It wasn't honestly until like recently, the last couple of years, that I've been able to like really zero in on the mental aspect of the fighting, and you know, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, man. It's going good. So
right. So you've kind of fought everyone from Quinton Rampage, Houston, Rolls Gracie, even the current champion Stipe. Was there ever a time as you get in the ring with them, you're kind of like, holy shit, I'm fighting someone that literally millions of people look up to? Was it ever? I mean, obviously it's got to be surreal at first, right?
It wasn't like I never like like nerded out over these guys. Like, oh my god, like
Right.
it would be more like on the side of like I was going through a lot of internal battles, like with everything going on in my personal life with like drugs and alcohol and my failed marriage and everything. I'm like, you're a piece of shit, man. And now this guy's gonna fuck you up, and you deserve it. Like you're gonna get fucked up right now. And I'm like, that's the internal monologue I was having with myself. It was really bad. And like I said, like once, so I'd go out and I'm like, oh shit, and then like once I would start getting hit, I would react like a street fight, and like and put on these crazy brawls. But like I said earlier, I was like, damn it, I would like freeze up and not really perform any of my techniques.
Right. So leading up to a fight, depending on who it is, are you playing out that fight in your head? Obviously, you kind of know their fighting styles, who their coaches are, but how much goes into planning specifically for that fight? Are you planning to knock out quick, or hey, if this fight's got to go 3 rounds?
Well, now as far as my mental process, I try to map out mentally and visualize multiple paths to victory. You know, whether visualizing like, you know, the perfect knockout shot early on in the fight, or you know, being you know, prepared, you know, as far as my cardio to go out and have a 5-round grind. You know, these are all things that I go over in my head, you know, for a couple months leading up to the fight. You know, whether or not who at this point, it doesn't really matter who I'm fighting. Like I'm so zeroed in on what it doesn't matter who my opponent is. I'm so zeroed in on just making myself the most dangerous version of myself possible. That, you know, they're gonna have to deal with me.
Right.
I don't really give a fuck who they are. They're having to deal with me. And you know, especially in the new rule set that I'm fighting under, you know, Bare-knuckle Fighting Championship. I definitely feel like it's going to take someone real special out there to beat me in my game.
Right. But you never really got into the trash talking aspect of it. I know in today's day and age with marketing, that kind of helps sell a fight. Do you think there's a place for it?
I always like, I take things too personally. Like if you talk shit to me, like we're not going to make it to the ring. We're not going to make it to the fight. Then I'll swing on you in real life. Like I don't like that. That's it. There's your answer. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm too sensitive. Like,
right.
If you talk shit, like, oh well, then you're gonna get hit.
You see some of those fighters, and not to name names, but it's like they already have a great fighting, but I get why you have to sell the fight. It just seems like you yourself are very humble, and you let your skill speak for itself.
You know, I mean, it's one of those things. Once again, it's like I'm in the right place at the right time with my sport that I'm in now. It's like I don't really think too much needs to go into selling the fight. Like, you know, what you're showing up for. You're showing up to a bare knuckle fight. You're showing up for maximum violence. You're showing up for blood. You're showing up for huge gashes over people's eyes. Like, I don't really think we really need to talk that much shit.
Right.
Some people got to do it to hype themselves up. Okay, I get that to some point, but you know, I'm almost 40 years old. I've been doing this a long time. Like, I know that when they say go, somebody's gonna try to freaking break my face. So I don't need to hype myself up much more than that.
At what point were you like, okay, I'm done kind of with like the UFC Bellator stuff? And how do you transition to bare-knuckle? It seems, yes, the sport's barbaric, but bare-knuckle seems it's insane.
Well, here's the thing: is like I went through some really rough times, a couple of years back, and I was actually in rehab. I went and spent 4 months at a rehab center in Mexicutioner. Shout out to the Fellowship Center, man. If you're in North County, San Diego, they're the best. And I went there and got my act together for a little while, and then when I was there, I started training again, and started getting like I was pretty heavy. I was like 285, and I started getting back in shape. And then one of my old managers hit me up. He's like, "Hey, how you doing, champ? You in shape?" I was like, yeah, of course, always. And then he's like, "Your name keeps coming up out here in Russia a lot." I've been doing work with Brandon Halsey, and these Russian guys really like you. I was, oh, okay, we'll see what they say. And then like a month goes by, I didn't hear nothing, and then he hit me up randomly, and he's like, hey, 5 weeks, Sergey Karatanov. Are you ready? I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And I basically like went from, at the time I was just doing like spin class at 24-hour fitness. I wasn't really like training or anything. I'm not like fight training. So then I just got ready. As ready as I could in 5 weeks. Went out to Russia, fought Sergey, went all 3 rounds, like had a great fight, busted him up pretty good, and I lost the decision. But I was like, okay, I still got it. I still got some in the tank. Leading up to that, it had been like 17 months since I had fought.
Right.
So after doing that, I was like, okay, I want to fight. I want to keep fighting. And then, training, but I couldn't, like, at that point, like, I was cut from Bellator. I hadn't fought in the United States in a long time in MMA, and I couldn't, like, for whatever reason, I couldn't get a fight. I could not get a fight, an MMA fight. And not in the regional scene or anything, like, what I need to do to, like, rebuild yourself to get the call back.
Right.
And so one of my old coaches from Alliance, Eric Del Fioro, he hit me up, and kind of almost jokingly, he's like, hey, I'm working with Beck, and these bare-knuckle guys, they're interested in you. You wouldn't want to do that, would you? And I was like, yeah, why not? Fuck it. I'm not doing anything right now. And then he called me back. He's like, they want you to fight Tony Lopez. I'm like, oh, sign me up. Let's fucking go. I'll fight that guy for free.
So you fought him in UFC, right? Or previous?
I fought him at King of the Cage.
Right.
Leading up to the UFC. Yeah, that was that. So that's how that happened. It was basically because of Beck. Like, if Rowdy Beck wasn't being pursued by them, I might not be the world champion right now. So,
what are the rules for bare-knuckle fighting? In layman's terms, if you could kind of explain it.
It's basically boxing, but you can punt, you can fight as long as you have one hand free. You can fight in the clinch. So I can dirty box. In MMA terms, I can dirty box the hell out of people.
And
I can grab them behind their head, grab their arm, grab their wrist, pull their head down, punch. Like, it's like I said, it's tailor made for my style.
And what do you wrap your hands with?
You don't wrap your hand. The rule is the tape has to be 2 inches under your knuckles. So you can I wrap the hell out of my wrists because I've always in my career I've had trouble with my wrists, never with my hands or my knuckles. So it's always been my wrist. So that's cool. I just wrap my wrists, tape them up, and go out there.
Was it difficult mentally to prepare for this since there is more of a aggression towards it? Like, there has to be a little different mindset, right?
I mean, after like the first one was like stepping into the unknown, you know. I was like, like I said, once again, I've been in plenty of street fights, right. So I know what it feels like to get hit with a fist, and that was not foreign to me. But I mean, it was just like, all right, here we go, we're fighting, and then like before you know it, like he's covered in blood, and then like after a while, now we're both just covered in blood and just in this swinging, crowd's going crazy. It was a beautiful thing, that first fight. Second fight, once again, I kind of like had the same approach, like, oh, I'm gonna hit you more than you're gonna hit me, and I'm gonna win, you know.
Right.
But unfortunately, like, boom, like the first round, this big scar right here got split wide open, and I was able to make it to the fourth round before the ref and the doctor finally stopped the fight. So after that, I was like, well, shit, man, I really need to rethink this. If I'm going to have any kind of longevity in the sport, you know. So I really, really, really focus on my head movement, cutting angles, and my defense as far as like my hand placement and everything, and really focus on the game of bare-knuckle boxing. And I've done really well ever since. I haven't lost since that second fight and haven't had any stitches after the fight. So I'm doing something right.
Is there a fear of CTE or injuries like that now, or how do you kind of? Obviously, you're a fighter, but there must be a fear of you see some of these fighters get like the CTE or crazy injuries after they retire.
I mean, honestly, like by the time CTE became very prevalent in the media and was out there like as a story and everything like that, I had already been fighting for years.
Right.
So there's no, you can't go back. You can't go back and race those hits. And then like they say, some of the people say like, oh, CTE can develop as far as high school. Well, shit, check that out because I played a year of I played high school and I played a year of junior college ball. So there's that. I mean, honestly, like, but as far as like bare-knuckle itself being a higher risk of CTE, like if anything, like no, man, you can't hit nearly as hard. Maybe once, but you crack somebody full speed, full power on their head, your hand's done. Your hand is going to be done, and so there's a lot more technique that goes into this game as far as like hand placement, like punch placement, body work, technique, and stuff like that. So, I mean, like to give you an idea, like when I went and I fought Sergey Karatanov out in Russia, and we went all 3 rounds and we had our hands taped and gloved, like I was in bed for like 2 weeks after that fight when I got home from Russia. Like it was bad. It was bad. And then like every fight that I've had in bare knuckle, like I'll get home on Sunday and go to work on Monday. So it's like I'll have like some cuts or scratches, whatever, but it's not nearly as far as like as big of a boom as you get on your head. So
right. When you're training for a fight, do you actually receive blows from your team? Are they physically hit you so you don't lose that kind of feeling? Or are you just so preconditioned where it's like what it feels like to be punched in the face?
So I'll do when we spar with 16-ounce gloves, like traditional boxing sparring, 16-ounce gloves and headgear. About once a week, I'll just do to really zero in on my defense. I'll do a few rounds. We'll move around with my partner. Will have MMA gloves, and I'll just block with my hands, with my bare hands, like I would in the fight, and just to like really get an idea of like moving my head. But you can kind of get comfortable like parrying punches and stuff with your big gloves that you're not gonna be able to do, barehanded. So
right.
But as far as like the training, that's really the only special thing that I do. And then every couple weeks, I'll do like a mitt session with no gloves. Or I'll do bag work with no gloves. But for the most part, I don't. But me personally, I know other people do different stuff. But like me personally, like I baby my hands leading up to the fight. Like I wear like these gel protectors that made by a company called Skulltech. And I wear these gel protectors on my knuckles leading up to the fight. And so, the first time shit hits the fan in the actual fight, like that's when my hands are getting, because I want to save them. That's my
right.
I don't have any trauma leading up to the actual fight. That's like I said. Some people do weird shit like punch poles and do the wood breaking and all that shit. But
right, blood sport. Right. So, do you think there's a chance this sport can kind of go mainstream, or is it too kind of barbaric to kind of scare people off?
I mean, the thing is that we live in a barbaric world.
No, 100%.
And so, I think as more and more the world becomes conservative, per se, like they have a more and more of a desire to see like violence, like the type of violence that we're producing.
Right.
And like I said, I mean, a lot of the times, like when the fights are promoted, they have to use like the clips to like clickbait, if you will, like with all the crazy bloody wars and stuff like that. Because that's what gets the initial reaction. That's what gets people to do the double take. Like, well, what the hell is that?
Right.
But like I said, if you watch a show or you watch a fight, like it's so technical and so like so much strategy that goes into it. Especially, I love it when you see like somebody who has pro boxing fights, like a pro boxing record, fight an MMA guy in bare knuckle. It's like they're meeting in neutral ground. Like, okay, now we're gonna find out who's the best fighter.
Right.
And it's like, you can't really. It's so many things you can do in boxing you can't do in bare knuckle. You can't get away with like, pussyfooting around and like hiding behind your jab. Because someone's just gonna rush your ass and crack you.
Right.
To answer your question, I think so, man. I think the way that society's going, like, yeah, it's going good.
Now, it is kind of cool. ESPN, they recently, you are visually, I definitely find you in different places now than I would a couple of months ago. And it was kind of cool where I think Paige Van Zandt just signed to your promotion as well after she left UFC. So it's kind of cool seeing someone like her jump over. It's just very fascinating that people are really joining, like getting into what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's definitely a big something positive for our promotion. I welcome her because I know that she's just gonna bring a lot of eyes when she finally toes the line. It's gonna be a big deal.
Right.
And her and Shannon Briggs ever actually fights. There's some big names that are coming over. So it's just like I said, man, it's good for the promotion. It's good for me.
That's great. You also have a background in jiu-jitsu. How does that kind of help you with bare-knuckle fighting?
Well, like a little bit, like considering like the hand fighting aspect and the upright, like the grappling, like I said, the inside hand fighting, all the little nuances that go on when you're up against the ropes in the squared circle. So yeah, man, it's like all the training, whether it be like Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu, all my training that I did all those years in MMA, like really just it all came full circle because I can use a lot of it. Obviously, I can't kick people, but
right,
my clinches, my little jerks and shoves with the head and stuff like that, getting people off balance and the striking. This shit's all coming back into play.
Right. You're also the World Heavyweight Police Gazette champion. Now, that's an incredible. This is awesome history with that, especially like the old school posters and magazine covers. What does it feel like to be part of history like that?
Oh man, obviously it's a huge honor, and it's one thing to be the BKFC heavyweight champ, but then to be like the historically recognized bare knuckle boxing champion is just something that I'll never. When I'm older, people will, I can be able to show like my grandkids and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I recently looked up an old picture, like the original, and then to see yours now, it's so cool. That belt is badass.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Absolutely.
As you get older, what are you able to kind of tell yourself that, hey, I can retire, or are you going to have that kind of fighting urge to just kind of keep going out?
I always say, man, I'll retire when I suck. Like, I'm still waiting.
Right.
I'm still waiting for someone to just really just like beat my ass and just like put me in my place. Like, all right, old man, you're done.
Right.
And I'm sure it will happen one day. But until then, like, I'm gonna keep swinging. I know I can't do it forever, but I know for damn sure I can do it right now. So
right.
I'm doing it.
I see a lot of people are kind of like, oh, Tyson, Roy Jones, and you're like, well, they're too old. Well, if they still have that fighting spirit, they still put the training behind it, I don't see anything that's wrong with it. It's just very fascinating.
Yeah. That fight, I'm going to watch.
Right.
A lot of people are going to watch that show.
Now, true or false here, your nickname someone gave you was the Mexicutioner?
Yeah.
Now, how'd you get that?
My friend, old training partner, his name was Eddie Sanchez. He's an old UFC veteran himself. We were training together way back in the day, and he was tossing around a couple ideas, and then he just looked at me one day with a twinkle in his eye. He said, "You know what? You're the Mexicutioner." I like it, And then, people liked it and stuff.
It's great marketing potential for sure. I mean, obviously you use it, but it is cool. It is cool.
Yeah.
So what are you getting into now? When's your next fight? And what's currently going on with you?
I mean, right now everything's tentative because we're all at the mercy of the coronavirus. So I don't like to announce stuff until like I have paperwork and everything. But tentatively, it's looking like I'm gonna be returning back in September. But like I said, I mean, everything's like like up in the air with coronavirus. So I don't want to get my hopes up too well. But I'm definitely been getting ready. Like, we were supposed to fight in July. That got pushed back to August. Now they're telling me September. But I'm looking at it like, it's just going to be really bad for whoever I fought because I've been training consistently the whole time. Like I said, I was ready to fight in July. And I was ready to fight this month. So by September, it's going to be really, really bad for whoever I fight.
And is there a weight class you're in? I know you're heavyweight, but is there a cutoff for being too heavy or too small?
I believe it's like 205, 265. They kind of use the same ones as MMA. But I know, like, in boxing like heavyweight's unlimited. So I don't know. Every time I've gotten the contract, though, it said 265 on it. So I just gotta stick to that.
So if someone comes up to you, your kids, your friends, whoever, like, hey, I want to do bare-knuckle boxing, what are a couple things you're going to tell them before they even think about doing it?
You better try some normal boxing. Yeah.
I love that. Well, I want to thank you, Joey, for the talk today. Again, you watching your highlights, especially on your social media, it's very inspiring, and I hope you do get to fight September and kick some ass.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support.
So, awesome. Good luck and be safe.
Thank you.